Hello everyone, I'm Joe Ackourey, and welcome to the Fly of the Week. For this episode, episode 86, I'll be tying a Clouser Minnow. The Clouser Minnow was developed by Bob Clouser to imitate mostly bait fish, and can be used in saltwater and freshwater applications. My experience with the Clouser Minnow has mainly been for freshwater applications for a smallmouth bass in the Susquehanna River. This pattern can be tied in a variety of color combinations: white and chartreuse, orange and black, and so forth. The color scheme I'm tying today is going to be one of my favorites for the evening: black and purple. So, without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, here we go. The Clouser Minnow. Clouser Minnow was developed by Bob Clouser to imitate bait fish for both saltwater and freshwater applications. And yeah, it's a great fly. So start by placing your hook in the vise, making sure that the shank of the hook is relatively parallel with the tabletop, and begin to cover the entire shank of the hook with thread. Okay, there's the end of the shank where the shank and the bend meet. Clip off your excess, and then return your thread back up toward the eye. Give it another good coating. I like to cover the entire shank of the hook on most of my nymphs and underwater flies, because whatever materials you place on top of these thread wraps is going to really bite into something, like the thread base, as opposed to a bare hook. So that's why I enjoy making my flies this way. So the first step to tying these flies is putting the dumbbell eyes in, and they're lead eyes, and they're going to be on top of the shank of the hook, and you want to get right around the a third of the way back. So you want to attach that with cross wraps, and a cross wrap just like so. Hope the camera is picking that up. And then you go back the opposite way. Kind of helps straighten them out. And usually 5 or 6 wraps one way and 5 or 6 wraps the other, and just keep alternating that until it's really locked down, and they're getting there. Yep. And then what I like to do, once I get the eyes on, and they're pretty tight now, I just like to take a couple of reinforcing wraps in behind those cross wraps, and then also in front. Okay, so there you have it. There's your eyes. So just a little, the color combination that I really like to fish with is black and purple. So this fly is tied with bucktail, and you have to understand that this fly is going to fish like this, upside down, because the weights are on the bottom. The eyes are going to pull it down, and it's going to be like a weedless rig here, pretty much, a weedless fly. So that being said, the lighter color will be on top, because when you're fishing it, if drifts upside down, so to speak, and the lighter color is the belly. So in this case, I'm using purple. I'm going to grab a decent amount, like a third of the gap's worth of this bucktail, and I'm going to grab a hold of the natural ends and kind of comb out the shorter ends with my fingers, and then I'm going to orient it so that it's in the direction that it should be facing. The natural ends are going to be jetting out the back, and these are the cut ends. But I'm also going to hand stack a couple of these ends that are a little bit longer than I like. I want it to be full throughout the whole piece of this, or this bunch of deer tail. So now we got to determine a length, and typically the length is going to be equal to 2 full hook lengths, maybe slightly more. I'm going to grab this very tightly. Going to get my thread up to the front of the hook, or right behind the eye, and I'm going to pick up on the deer hair and just slide some wraps on there. anchor that down tightly. And then throw my thread behind the eyes. And I like to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wraps right up behind the eyes and then space it out. Put 1, 2, space it out, 1, 2, space it out, 1, 2. Now they're equally spaced, of course. And then 5 more wraps behind it. And there's my my belly color, looking good. So then I'm going to return my thread right to where we started. Clip off this excess. And then flip the hook upside down. Okay. So now we're going to place our Krystal Flash in. And I like to use Pearl UV Krystal Flash. I'm going to take maybe 4 strands of this. Okay. There's my 4 strands. I'm going to gather them up. Get them as equal as possible. I'm going to tie them in. And lock them in. I'm going to separate them into 2 equal bunches on each side of the hook. And make them a little bit longer than the bucktail there. Just a little bit. And then prepare for the next step. Okay, so the next step is to place the black bucktail on. We're going to take about a little bit more than the previous bunch. We're going to place that just like we did, but only a little bit more, not much more. Again, we're going to grab our natural ends, draw any short hairs. Actually, they're quite long, so that's what I'm looking to get rid of. Just the real tiny ones that don't belong in the group. And then I'm going to reorient this and get rid of the long ones and just hand stack them and get them pretty much evened out with the rest of the bunch. There we go. So this group of deer hair is going to be placed directly on top, and we're going to match the length. Okay, lock that in. Pick that up, the excess, clip that off on an angle, and cover up any excess. Okay, I'm going to take it out of the vise and just kind of separate the deer tail so that it's equally on, each side of the hook. There we go. That's looking really good. And I'm going to reorient the hook and tie my finishing knot. It's a very easy fly to tie, but very effective. So I like to fish this. I orient my body 3/4 downstream, and I cast out and let a nice loop of fly line, like kind of let it swing through the runs. And then I pick my rod tip up and I just give it 3 quick 6-inch strips with the rod tip up slightly, and then stop, and then boom, boom, boom. Seems to work really well. And this fly, like I said, is a great evening fly. I've not only caught smallmouth, but I also caught some really nice walleye on this color combination. So yeah, definitely add this one to your arsenal. So now I'm just going to coat the knot with my favorite UV glue. Making sure that I get all of it, all the way around. Heat that up. Okay. Nice. And also these thread wraps that I used to anchor the first piece, the purple. I'm going to carefully draw this down so I don't get them all goobered up here. And just hit that with my glue. Making sure that I got most of it done. There we go. And get the lamp. There you go, guys. This fly is ready to fish. It's a great pattern developed by Bob Clouser to imitate bait fish in both saltwater and freshwater applications. And yeah, this guy's ready to go. So, thank you for joining me in this episode of the Fly of the Week. And if you like the content I'm pushing out, please hit the notification bell and be sure to subscribe. Tight lines, guys.